My parents abandoned me as a child because I wasn't as smart as my twin. Years later, when they tried to reconnect, I introduced them to my new family, and it didn't go well. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. 10 years ago, when I was 12 years old, I was sent to live with my uncle, my dad's older brother, in the countryside by my parents because they did not feel like taking care of me anymore. They thought that I was a burden on them and would much rather just have my twin to raise, whom they believed was far more capable than I was. And I don't deny it, she really was a lot more clever than me. Unfortunately, I could not keep up. I was mostly just average, but in a family of overachievers, average just doesn't cut it. My parents were both doctors, and they had decided that my sister and I were also going to become doctors just like them. But if I'm being honest, I never really had any interest in academics and was more inclined towards creative endeavors, which is what I really wanted to do with my life. They used to put me under tremendous pressure, and I was not doing well at school. It did not help that my parents were not even trying to encourage me to do better. They were just insulting me and constantly comparing me with my twin sister. I was used to that sort of treatment from a very young age, but with time it just kept getting worse, and I found it really difficult to concentrate on anything. By the time I was 12 and had hit middle school, I was doing so bad at everything that I was flunking out of most classes. Even though I was trying my best, I was unable to score better. My teachers constantly complained about me because they did not know how things were at home for me. They just believed that I was lazy and was not willing to try hard enough to do better. Even people at school kept comparing me to my brilliant twin sister, who was doing so much better than I was. I was literally crying myself to sleep every night, because every single day my parents would make it a point to remind my sister how much they loved her and remind me how much of a disappointment I was to them and that I needed to do better. One night, things got so bad because at dinner they insulted me about my grades once again. I lashed out at them, and they grounded me for the next 2 weeks. So I decided to run away from home, not even knowing where I was going to go. Obviously, I couldn't get very far and could only make my way to the park nearby, where I sat by myself all lonely and terrified in the dark. They found me there at around 5 in the morning. They had to call the cops to find me. After they had brought me back home, that was the day they decided they were going to ship me off to my uncle's house in the countryside, where I could grow up with him and his family. When I was told by my parents that they were sending me to live with my uncle and his family, I literally begged them so many times not to do that to me, that I would be better, that I would not disappoint them ever again or try to run away. But they did not care about any of that. They told me that I had let them down and that they couldn't deal with this anymore. They had another child to take care of, and they couldn't spend all their time taking care of somebody who had proven to be useless time and again. I don't even think that was true. They spent most of their time fawning over my sister. They barely even cared about me unless it was time to make fun of me for how bad I was doing at school. Anyway, I kept begging them not to do that to me because I did not want to be away from them, and most importantly, I did not want to be separated from my sister since she was literally the only person who was nice to me in that family. However, they did not listen to me and did what they had to. They made me say goodbye to my sister and then didn't even allow her to be there for me on the ride to my uncle's house. Once I was there, I literally could not stop crying for the next few weeks, and I just wanted to go home. I kept trying to call my parents, and my uncle and aunt were really helpful and supportive during that time because they could understand what I was going through. But my parents did not pick up any of my calls and ignored me. A few weeks later, I decided to accept my fate and just make peace with it. I did stay in touch with my sister. She was the only person who would speak to me, but it had to be done in secret because she did not have a cell phone, so I had to call her from my uncle's phone or the home phone whenever my parents were away. Social media was just getting popular at the time, thankfully, so she would use the computer to talk to me, and occasionally whenever she would tell me that the coast was clear, I would call her and we would finally get to talk to each other. My sister and I are still in touch. We love each other, and that's how it's always going to be. She has kept me updated on what has been going on with her and our parents for the past 10 years, and has also told me that our parents were planning on reaching out to me a couple of weeks ago, which is how I was able to prepare myself for that mentally. For the past 10 years, I had absolutely no contact with my parents. Initially, it was because they had refused to get in touch with me or even speak to me after they had dropped me off at my uncle's house. After I had spent a couple of years at my uncle's place, I was the one who was just not interested in reaching out to them ever again. They had abandoned me. That was the end of the story. Honestly, after I moved in with my uncle and aunt, I was having a much better life. They did not put me under the kind of pressure that my parents had, and I started doing better at school. I was still average academically. I was not the straight A student that my sister had always been, but at least I was not flunking out of all my classes. My uncle and aunt also allowed me to take part in other activities like school plays and sports, which my parents did not allow me to do because they thought that it would affect my grades badly. I was living my life to the fullest, and I was very happy with them. When I was living with my parents, I was also forbidden from talking to boys because they thought it would distract me. My uncle and aunt, however, did not have any such ridiculous restrictions and allowed me to talk to whoever I wanted, and I was allowed to bring friends home as well. Coincidentally, that was the reason why I was able to meet my husband, who has been there for me all along. We have been together for the past 7 years. We got together in high school and have been inseparable since then, and even attended the same college. I graduated from college last year, and 1 week after we had graduated together, we got married in an intimate ceremony. Last month, I gave birth to our son. I don't live with my uncle and aunt anymore. My husband and I have a house a few streets away from them, but we do visit them quite frequently, and so do they, to see our son. I'm on maternity leave right now, so I don't have to go back to work for another few weeks. My sister has openly been in touch with me for the past few years because after she turned 18, she decided that she did not feel the need to hide our bond from our parents because there was nothing they could do. She was the maid of honor at my wedding and is the godmother to my child as well. Last week, while she was visiting us, she told me that our parents planned on paying me a visit. They still did not know that I was married and had a baby because everybody had pretty much stopped speaking to them after they had abandoned me because it was such a heartless thing to do. So they hadn't known anything about my life, and my sister didn't think that it was necessary for her to talk to them about me. So she did not tell them anything, even when they had asked. But after 10 years, they were finally feeling some sort of regret about what they had done all those years ago, and were planning on reaching out to me. She thought that it was her duty to tell me about it, so I could decide what I wanted to do, and it would not come as a shock to me when they contacted me. A couple of days after her visit, my parents indeed reached out to me through social media, asking me if they could visit me. They did not apologize for anything. It was just a plain message with just the two of them asking if they could visit, nothing else. I was a little let down by that message because I had genuinely expected them to at least say that they were sorry for the way that they had treated me in the past. So for a little while, I was so pissed that I thought about not responding to that message at all. But then I had a better idea, and I thought that I would invite them over and show them the place because now I had a great life, and I thought that it would be an appropriate idea to let them know how great I was doing without them. So I gave them my address and invited them over for dinner on the weekend. I also invited my uncle, aunt, and my sister, and obviously my husband and my son were going to be there because that dinner was being hosted at my house. I did not tell my uncle and aunt that my parents were going to be there, so everybody was very surprised to see each other when they showed up at my house last weekend. This was 3 days ago, and I still don't know if I did the right thing or not. Anyway, once everybody was here, things were pretty awkward because obviously I had not seen my parents in 10 years, and everybody in the family had cut them off. That included my uncle and my aunt, since they did not want anything to do with my parents either. The reason behind it was that my parents had promised that not only would they support me financially for as long as I was living with my uncle, but they would also keep in touch so that I did not get lonely and make sure that my emotional needs were met as well. But they only lived up to half of that promise. They did send money every month, but they did not bother to keep in touch with me and were just glad to be rid of me. That's not the deal that my uncle had signed up for, and he was upset that my parents were abandoning me emotionally, but he did not mind taking care of me. He was the one who had stood up for me and told the rest of the family what my dad was doing, and everybody else cut my father off for that reason. So that led to a lot of bad blood between the two. But my dad still continued to send money until I turned 18. After that, there was no contact between them either. After greeting each other, we were supposed to have dinner together, but I decided to make a toast before that. As if things were awkward enough, I decided to lean into it and make it even worse, because I wanted my parents to feel sorry, and I wanted to make them feel bad. So I got up and started making a speech about how beautiful the last 10 years of my life had been compared to the first 12. I made it out to be a speech to my uncle and my aunt, because honestly, they had done a lot for me over the past decade, and I don't think that I would have been able to make it this far in life without them. I also thank my husband for being there with me all along the way, and my sister for never giving up on me in spite of everything that was going on. Very pointedly, I decided to snub my parents in my speech because I did not have anything to thank them for, and they noticed that. Throughout my speech, they kept their eyes downcast and did not even say a word. Once I was done with my speech, I decided to rub it in even more and turned to my parents and told them that I was finally ready to introduce them to my new family. They were shocked to the very core when I announced that because I don't think they had been expecting me to say something like that. As soon as I said that this was my new family, my mother burst into tears and literally made a run for it. In the first place, all of us would have been much better without all this drama. After they had left, we had a very awkward and quiet dinner together, and nobody stayed for dessert. I was glad for it because it was just really heavy. I did not like my parents, but I did not think that what I had done was right. I haven't had an opportunity to speak to my uncle and aunt yet, but my sister and my husband both think that I took things a little too far, and that I shouldn't even have responded to my parents' messages if I did not want to interact with them. Insulting them like this was just unnecessary. I do feel bad for inviting my parents over to dinner and then humiliating them. Update 1. Alright, so the comments so far have been pretty divisive about whether or not I should apologize to my parents, but everyone agrees that I should talk to my uncle and aunt at the very least. Since the jury's still out on my parents, I decided to contact my uncle today. It's been a week since the family dinner that I hosted, and we hadn't been able to talk much for the past couple of days, because I was really busy and so were they. I also think that the awkwardness was still there, so we did not speak to each other because we did not want to make things uncomfortable. Today, I addressed it by calling my uncle up, and before he could say anything, I just told him that I was really sorry for inviting my parents to the dinner that day without even giving them a heads up about it. He told me that he was a little shocked that I had done that, but eventually he got over it. He just hadn't reached out to me because he didn't know if I was feeling fine after that night since I was pretty upset. He agreed things had gotten pretty awkward that day, but he told me that it was all water under the bridge and it did not matter. Then I called my aunt and apologized to her as well, and she had a similar reaction. Now that I have apologized to both of them and that's out of the way, I don't feel that guilty anymore. Personally, I don't feel like I owe my parents an apology, because after everything that they put me through in my childhood, I really don't think anybody would feel sorry for behaving the way that I did. They haven't apologized to me yet, so I don't see a reason that I should. I spoke to my husband about it as well, since he had said that I should apologize to them, and I explained to him that even though what I did at the dinner was uncalled for, the way that I had been treated in the past was also not acceptable. He seemed to understand where I was coming from, so he did not push it. I said the same thing to my sister as well, and she was kind of skeptical about it. But then she told me that at the end of the day, it was my decision. I was the one who had been wronged, so whatever I decided to do was fair enough. She hasn't been able to get in touch with our parents either for the past week since they have been suspiciously quiet, but I'm guessing they are just laying low for the time being. They will definitely reach out to me again and demand an apology or try to create some drama. Update 2. Hi, so I just wanted to get something out of the way. My sister is not trying to be diplomatic by having a good relationship with our parents, and even if she is, I am fine with that, so it does not need to become such a big thing in the comment section, which I've been noticing. She knows that what they did to me was very wrong, but she was also very young. It's not like she could have stood up for me and protested. She was against the idea at the time, but we were so little that our opinions didn't really matter, so she couldn't have done anything anyway. She did her best and kept in touch with me, so that's enough. Now, the reason that she is still in touch with our parents is because they're getting older, and she doesn't want to abandon them because that would make her feel guilty. There's nothing more to it than that. It's not really that deep, so please don't accuse her of anything. It's completely unnecessary, and we have a lot of love between each other, so we don't think that the comments being made about her are justified. Now, coming to what happened. As I had mentioned in my last update towards the very end, I was pretty sure that my parents were not going to sit back down and take what I had done kindly. They are just not the kind of people who let things go easily. I had been prepared for some sort of retaliation from their end, and it finally happened today. 10 days after the dinner that I had hosted, they decided to go public with the incident and actually posted all about it on social media. I thought that was pretty surprising because they don't really have a very active social media presence, but just for this one incident, they decided to post about it. Just as I had expected, it was a very one-sided post where they only spoke about how hurt they were, but they did not mention any of the things that they had done in the past. I honestly would not have cared about that post if it had been directed towards our family members. Since nobody from my family likes my parents because of what they did in the past by abandoning me and stuff. But they had been very clever about the entire thing and had decided to go ahead and tag my coworkers and my husband's coworkers as well, even though he didn't even have anything to do with this entire fiasco. Obviously, my coworkers were not aware of my history with my parents and my strained relationship with them, so they were all pretty shocked when they got tagged in that post, and they started blowing up my phone almost immediately. I'm on maternity leave, so I obviously did not know what they had posted because I was not at work, and I don't really check my social media that often because I'm usually busy with my son. But after they started sending me messages telling me to check out what had happened online, I was shocked. I did not know how to react to that because I had not been expecting any of it. I was pretty sure that they had been able to find the accounts of my coworkers by stalking me online because I have quite a few pictures with them and I had tagged them in it. So that's probably what they had been doing in the past week. Stalking me, trying to find out who I was friends with at work so they could ruin my reputation. Anyway, I saw that post. I was shocked for a couple of minutes, but then I decided to comment and tell people the reality of the situation. I did not have anything to hide. I was the victim in the situation, and what happened at the dinner was uncalled for, but not unjustified. So I typed out the entire incident that had taken place, how they had dropped me off at my uncle's house all those years ago and then refused to keep in touch with me. And even when they had reached out to me, they had not apologized to me. And after they got to my place, they still hadn't apologized. If they had done that, I might have reconsidered saying the things that I did. But anyway, in my opinion, what I did was not wrong. I also clarified the same to my friends at work who had been tagged in the post. I apologized to them on my parents' behalf because they did not need or deserve to get caught up in our drama, and it was really ridiculous of my parents to do something like this. I'm obviously pretty pissed off because they could have just targeted me and kept things clean, but dragging my coworkers into this, that's just below the belt and unacceptable. I've been waiting for my husband to get home. I did not want to bother him at work with this today because he had told me that he had an important meeting with a client. Otherwise, I might have contacted him and told him about this. But honestly, this is just petty drama, and I can deal with this on my own. I have already spoken to my sister. She thinks that our parents are being crazy right now. They were probably just not able to take the disrespect and completely lost it. And I think that is exactly what has happened. But even then, nothing can ever justify this sort of behavior. I haven't even told my uncle or my aunt about this because I'm sure they're going to have very strong reactions to this. And I don't want to trouble them with this right now because they're pretty busy at work. Update 3. So a couple of hours have passed since I posted my last update. It's 8 in the evening right now, and everybody's at my house, my uncle and aunt and my sister. My husband has also come back home from work, and we are just trying to figure out a way to deal with this situation. I don't want to go to a lawyer like a lot of you suggested. I really don't have the time or energy to file a petition and then deal with that. It's just not necessary. I want to deal with it personally and keep lawyers out of this for as long as possible. Of course, if they refuse to take down that post, then I might have to get in touch with an attorney and file a defamation lawsuit or whatever they deem appropriate. But until then, we are going to try our best to have them take it down. So far, everybody has texted them and told them to take it down, but they haven't cared about any of that. They haven't even responded to our messages, so I don't know what they are thinking. They haven't bothered to delete my comment either. So at least everybody who sees the post will get to know the truth. A significant amount of people have seen that post. It's getting a lot of traction for some reason, and that's not good for me because I don't come off looking too good in that post. It's not just my coworkers who had been tagged who saw that post, but a couple of my acquaintances have seen that as well and are asking me about it. I don't know how it popped up on their feed, probably because I had been tagged in the post as well. But I have removed that tag, and it's still showing up on people's feeds. I figured that there must be some glitch with the app, but it's just not good for me. People are asking me about it, and I'm just getting sick of answering their questions since they can just read my comment and call it a day. but for some reason, they feel they need to reach out to me personally and ask me about it again and again. It's getting really annoying, and I just want this to blow over, honestly. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that I don't have to be contacted by HR, because that might spell trouble for me, and I really don't want to ruin my reputation at work because of my parents. As of now, my family and I are still trying to figure out a way to get them to take this down, but they are not responding to me. Tomorrow, my sister has told me that she is going to visit my parents and ask them to take it down in person. So that might work, and if they still refuse to do so, we will be left with no other option but to go after them with an attorney. I'm really hoping that it doesn't have to come to that because it's going to be a lot of work for me, and right now, I just want to spend time with my son. That's what my maternity leave is for anyway, not to deal with their stupid little shenanigans. Update 4. Hey, so my sister went to visit my parents today for an hour. I had no idea what was going on, but just half an hour ago, she told me that she had spoken to our parents and said that they were very upset, which is why they had made that post and tagged my coworkers. My guess was correct. They had been able to find my coworkers and their social media accounts by stalking me online. That was pretty creepy of them, but whatever. That's literally the least of my concerns right now. Anyway, she told me that she had had a long discussion with them, and they told her that they would gladly take the post down. But for that, I had to apologize to them first. I instantly told my sister that it was going to be a no for me because I did not do anything wrong, and I'm going to stand by that. Thankfully, she knew that I was not going to apologize, so she had told my parents that no matter what, I was not going to pretend that I was sorry for something that I didn't even do wrong. They could just save their time and energy and take that post down, because otherwise, I was planning to come after them with a lawyer, and that would not be too good for them. That discussion went on for almost 1 hour, and in the end, they decided that they were going to take that post down and end it. But they have also told my sister to tell me that they are cutting me out of their lives and the inheritance as well. I really don't care about any of that. I just want their post to be taken down. They can keep their inheritance to themselves. It holds no importance to me. My husband and I are doing pretty well career-wise, and we know that we are going to be rich. And even if we are not, I'm fine with that. At least I don't have to rely on them for money. My sister told me that she told them the same thing, so at least they are aware of my feelings on this. Anyway, now that that is dealt with, I'm going to spend the rest of my time on maternity leave with my son and make the most of it before I have to go back to work. Thank you so much.